Hello! Today we'll look at antique quilts, what to look for in them, and how to quilt them. Marica Stevens is here and she's going to show us some great ways to incorporate patterns into borders and inserts. And we'll see how to load more than one quilt on the machine, so stay tuned. Linda's Longarm Quilting is aired free to you by Gamble Quilting Systems Vision 2. Innovation taken to the next level. My stitch, my vision, my Gamble. Before we start on our antique quilts or look at loading up multiple quilts on the machine, Marica Stevens is here and she has some wonderful suggestions for using all of the pantograph and roll patterns we already have to good use. Welcome, Marica.
Well, it's nice to be here, Linda.
Marica, you have been quilting on the Longarm for a good number of years.
Good number, yes.
We call you the pioneer of the Longarm industry.
Well, you've been known to say that, yes. Over 20 years, yes.
Over 20 years.
Yes.
That is a long time for the Longarm. Yes. So I know you've been using these, and you're really known for your precise work with patterns, and I know you like to use patterns a lot.
Yeah, I have a problem with perfection things, so
okay.
I like to keep it that way. And obviously when I started out 20 years ago, roll patterns are what we had. We had no use of the front of the machine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Although the machine I have now, I can do that. Mm-hmm. I probably do about 50% front and back.
Front and back. So a good, well-rounded quilter,
yes,
I think,
I am
uses
well-rounded.
both. Yes.
In a lot of places. So what I want to show you today is how to use your current roll patterns and use them in borders and a lot of other places in a quilt. So
Great.
my quilts show that, and today though, let's do a border to start out with.
Let's see how you do this.
Okay. The first thing we'll do is measure the width of our border. In this case, it's 5.5 inches. When I choose a design for a border, I like to have clearance top and bottom, obviously.
Of course, yes.
And I like anywhere from 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. If you go less than like 1/4 of an inch, you have to be really accurate. But first of all, let's talk about the pattern a little bit. This is the pattern I've chosen. It happens to be a 4-inch rose design.
Okay.
So that will give me a clearance of 3/4 of an inch top and bottom on each side, right? And you'll notice on the pattern that I have these reference lines drawn. Mm-hmm. They enable me to keep the pattern straight in line with the border, and that'll make more sense as I start measuring.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, we're going to measure. I've got a little hem gauge that I use to do the measuring. From the seam, I'm measuring 3/4 of an inch. And place the needle in position. Then below the laser, I'm going to bring the pattern down so that the upper reference line is directly under the light of the laser.
Right on the line.
Right on the line.
Okay.
And I'm going to place a piece of tape at the top edge of the paper, not on
the paper.
Not on the paper, but at the top edge. Mm-hmm. That you'll notice that I have the paper on top of the plastic. Mm-hmm. For this, we want to be able to shift it back and forth to make it fit.
Okay.
Before I move on to the next one, I want to bring the laser to the bottom reference line, use my measuring tool, and measure to make sure that the needle is in fact 3/4. It's a double check, because not all borders are going to be perfectly, give you that 3/4 of an inch or half or whatever. So you want to make sure your hem gauge is set properly.
Check twice, so once.
Exactly.
Good tip. Yes.
Yes. Then we'll go down and continue to do the measuring and the marking. And I usually do these marks about every 12 inches along a quilt. If you have a border that is a little bit, wavy. You can see that it's wavy, you may want to put your tape a little bit closer together. Or if you've only allowed yourself less than 1/2 inch, definitely make sure that you're going to follow.
Closer together.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, corners. What the corners are going to allow us to do is evenly space the roll pattern between them. So we do have to tape the corners down. And I wanted to show you that I have corners drawn. I design corners for all of my roll patterns. Whether they
so you can use them as a pantograph or a border.
Exactly. Some of them come with corners now as when you purchase them, but a good share of them don't, so I just automatically drop my corners. They're ready for use whenever I need them. When you make the second corner, you make it exactly the same. These two are exactly the same. It's just that this one will turn a quarter of a turn, and we'll use it at that end.
Okay.
I have pieces of tape at the top edge that will allow me to anchor them so they don't move, and we'll set that up right now. Here, same idea. This time I'm going to measure from the vertical seam 3/4 of an inch, get the needle in position. We normally we quilt from right to left. So I'm going to line up the roll pattern with this corner so that the repeat matches up. I can start right off from the corner and come across. We look at this end.
It's not matching
Horrors. People go into a panic. It's no problem.
up. Okay.
All we'll do is we'll figure out how much we have to move it. Now you have two choices when you're moving your pattern. You can move it away from the machine, which is stretching,
Okay.
or we could compress it. If it's a shorter distance to compress it,
In
we'll do that.
between, okay.
In between the two corners. In this case, knowing that this is quite a wide repeat, and I see that this is about, that's about 1 3/4 inches, stretching's the way to go.
Okay.
We're going to stretch, and do make yourself a little arrow,
That looks good.
because if you get interrupted and you go the wrong way, then you have more horrors.
And we do get interrupted.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
So I've got 1 3/4 inches, and now I have to determine where I want to put that extra space in the pattern, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to quilt a portion, move the pattern, quilt, move, scoot it down here till it gets matched
Till it's
up.
matched.
Till it's matched up,
Okay.
correct. And I like to, my favorite movement is about 1/4 inch because I can eyeball it. I don't have to do any of the measuring. So I'll count spots. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and maybe we could get another one out of here. So 7. So that would give me enough, correct?
That would give you enough.
That would be just
If
right.
we did the math correctly.
Yes, if we did the math correctly. Or you could do the 6 spots and move it a
just
strong
squish
cord.
it, yeah.
A little stronger.
Okay.
So let's do that. Every time I get to a spot where I want to stop, I'll quilt, stop, move, until I get to this end and it's lined up.
Okay. And
Okay.
as long as you're keeping that along the edge of the tape, you're in good shape.
Exactly,
Okay.
that's right. If you find that your pieces of tape are scooting across in a wave, just worry about the two that you're working between.
Oh, okay.
Don't try to line all of them up. I mean, this one could be way up here, no big deal.
You
As
don't have
long
to
as
worry
you're
about it.
as long as you're between the two.
That's a great tip because, you know, the borders are not always
Exactly.
straight. So
Right.
good.
Okay, we'll get started. Now, when I start a corner design, I pick a spot that will make it easy for me to come in from the side, because I'm going to rotate the quilt, do the same thing
So
with
you
the
don't want to leave
sideboard.
something hanging out there that you would have to match
It's
up
too
exactly.
tough. Yeah, you
Okay.
find an intersection like this point right here
Mm-hmm.
to be able to come back to easily. And I'll just do a couple of anchoring stitches. This is standard quilting. I mean, this is just, everybody does this. What's nice about using your pantographs is that once you get this set up, it's a no-brainer. You don't have to think about where you're going. It's all done for you. So it's actually makes it extremely easy, right?
Well, yeah, once you do all of the, you know, setting up, I
Math
can see
and-
that. Then you can just relax and do the pattern.
Right.
And I think that's the key. You're sewing fairly fast, all of your lines are smooth, and haven't you found that accuracy comes with practice as you're, you know,
Yes,
people
practice-
worry so much about staying on the lines, and if they just worry about their,
Only you and I know that, and now they know it,
Now
I
they know it.
suppose.
We've told
if, if they're watching me and I don't look like I'm on the line, deal with it.
that's right. It looks like you're on the line up here.
I moved it 1/4 inch, strong quarter actually,
Okay.
and I just keep right on going. So you just move it again, scoot it again, your 1/4 inch.
Okay.
Again, always make sure you're up against those 2 pieces of tape.
Okay, in between where you're quilting.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Keep right on trucking. What's really nice about pantos is that there are so many new ones and beautiful ones out on the market now. People are so creative with their designs. Why not use them on quilts?
Yes.
You don't have to do an overall panto.
Don't have to
edge edge.
reinvent the wheel all the
No.
time. And this is a beautiful pattern. Is this one of your original designs?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. But then all of your roses will look the same. They're spaced evenly. And you certainly, when you're quilting, you can use your panto patterns for borders like this, but then you can go on in the quilt and do freeform. Borders are so long normally, generally, so why not do something that's kind of a no-brainer, and especially on a plain fabric, and it looks perfect.
Or you could come back and echo or do stipple around it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've noticed you've done this on some of the quilts that you brought to show us. You've done stipple around the edges. Almost looks strapunto, and it's gorgeous.
Would you like to look at those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about those quilts.
The comparison quilt it's a shoe fly design, and there again, it's the border design is one of my designs, and I just made it work in the border.
Oh, it gives it a good motion. That whole quilt looks, just set it right in motion.
Yeah, and then I also used it in the inset area. So I take portions of the roll pattern and create an inset pattern, a block pattern if necessary. Now the pattern goes out into an odd shaped area. So I may lay a piece of tissue paper or plastic and draw that area out, and then go to my pattern and overlay it, and just keep playing with it until it works.
And then the big quilt is is this your quilt?
No, Pat Maisley made this in it was actually a mystery quilt that she put together. And Spring Retreat is what she called it. And so when I got it, I thought, you know, butterflies would be kind of cool. So I kind of took the idea of the butterflies and created a design, a feathery design, because Pat is a very traditional person. And you'll notice too, instead of creating, I could have created a large square feather design, but there are so many other areas on this quilt that were other shapes. I wanted to keep the design basically the same. So I decided to create more of a triangular design. And yes, I have to quilt it 4 times, but I could use it in the border areas too.
So you could pull that design out. And your Amish quilt.
The Amish quilt, that's again just using border designs. I'm not turning corners on this one, so it just makes sure that it fits between.
That dead end border in there with
a dead end.
Beautiful feather.
Exactly. When I do the
feather.
dead ends, I just use the same. It's a border print. It's not freehand, but I draw up the little ends. You can even do that on your plastic. You could draw it right on the plastic if you shoved it under, and then draw on the plastic with a dry erase or a wet erase. So yes, that's just rulers.
Wow.
Cut me off.
Wow. We're so impressed, and we appreciate you so much showing us your technique here and sharing some of your secrets with us.
No problem.
And thank you again for being with us.
It was good to be here. Thank you.
I'm having so much fun with my new Gamble Vision 2. I have customized my right handle to the start and stop, and my tie-off feature as well. My left handle has not only the needle position, so I can have my needle start and stop down, but also my stitch button, which toggles between stitch modes. This just keeps getting better and better as I envision more possibilities in my quilting applications. Being able to customize the 4 buttons on the handles has given my creativity wings. My stitch, my vision, my Gamble.